The night air was cool when Emma stepped out of the car and closed the door behind her. The hum of the neighborhood was quiet compared to the laughter and music she had just left behind at the birthday party. Her heels clicked softly on the pavement as she walked up the path to her house. And for the first time in months, she felt a little lightness in her steps. The evening had been filled with warmth, familiar faces, and the sweet comfort of belonging somewhere beyond her usual routines. Inside, the living room glowed softly from a single lamp left on. Emma slipped off her coat, set her small clutch bag on the table, and exhaled slowly as though releasing the entire evening in one breath. She felt different tonight, not just because she had dressed up in her favorite navy dress or because of the champagne that left her cheeks rosy, but because for a few short hours she had felt seen. People had noticed her smile, her laughter, the way her eyes lit up when she spoke. Compliments had come easily. And though she brushed them off politely, they lingered with her even now at 43. Emma had long accepted that life was a series of roles she carried gracefully: mother, caretaker, friend, coworker. But tonight she had been reminded that she was still Emma, a woman who could turn heads, a woman whose presence could light up a room. It was a small but powerful feeling, and she carried it like a secret treasure in her heart. As she turned the key and pushed open the front door, the house smelled faintly of coffee mixed with the comforting scent of fresh laundry. Emma smiled faintly. It was the smell of home. But as she stepped further into the living room, her smile faltered. There on the couch sat her son Daniel. He was not just awake, he was waiting. His posture was still, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that startled her. "Daniel?" she asked gently, setting her shoes aside. "What are you doing up so late?" He didn't answer right away. His gaze followed her as she moved, and Emma felt a sudden unease. She had expected the quiet emptiness of the house, not the presence of her son studying her like he had something important to say. "I was waiting for you," Daniel finally said, his voice calm but heavy. Dot. Emma stopped mid-step. His tone wasn't casual, not the usual way he spoke when they exchanged small talk at night. This was deliberate, purposeful. Her chest tightened slightly, though she wasn't sure why. "Is something wrong?" she asked, searching his expression for clues. Daniel leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped tightly together. He looked older in that moment than his 22 years, like someone carrying a weight he had been afraid to share. "You look different tonight," he began softly, his eyes locked on hers. Emma blinked. "Different? What do you mean? I saw you before you left," he explained. "You were dressed up, smiling, glowing, and when you came back just now, I could still see it. It hit me. You're not just my mom, you're a woman too." His words landed with a surprising force. Emma froze, caught between confusion and something deeper she didn't want to name. The party's warmth still lingered in her veins, but his voice cut through it like a cool blade of truth. She let out a shaky laugh, trying to lighten the moment. "You sound so serious. I just went to a birthday party, that's all." But Daniel didn't smile. His gaze was steady, unwavering. "No, Mom, it's more than that. I realize tonight how much I take you for granted. You give so much to me, to everyone around you, and I don't think I've ever really told you how much you mean to me." Emma's heart skipped a beat. These weren't the casual words of a son making small talk. These were confessions, raw and unguarded. She lowered her purse to the table and slowly sat down across from him, her knees brushing the edge of the coffee table. "Daniel," she whispered, "why are you telling me this now?" His chest rose and fell quickly as though he had been holding back for too long. "Because I don't want you to feel invisible. I don't want you to think your life is only about responsibilities and giving. You deserve to feel alive, to feel special every single day. Tonight when you walked out the door made me realize how often I forget to remind you of that." Emma stared at him, her throat tightening. For years she had buried her own desires beneath the weight of daily life. She had told herself she was fine, that the quiet ache she felt sometimes was just part of being older, part of being a mother. But now, hearing her son speak with such conviction, she felt something inside her stir, a mix of pride, sorrow, and a strange trembling she didn't understand. The room felt smaller suddenly, as if the walls themselves were closing in around them. She searched his face, seeing not the boy she once tucked into bed, but the man he had become, a man who spoke with a sincerity that both comforted and unsettled her. Emma tried to steady her voice. You're making me emotional, Daniel. It's been a long day. Maybe we can talk about this tomorrow. But Daniel leaned forward, his eyes never leaving hers. No, Mom. I need you to hear this now. His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning, impossible to ignore. Emma felt her pulse quicken. She wanted to respond to ease the weight of his emotions, but all she could do was sit there in silence, her hands folded tightly in her lap. In that moment she realized something had shifted. The evening glow of the party was gone, replaced by a storm she hadn't expected. A storm born not of conflict but of truth. The house was quiet, but Emma's heart was loud, pounding with questions she wasn't ready to answer. And in that silence she understood the night wasn't over yet. It was only just beginning. Emma sat frozen in the quiet living room, the faint ticking of the wall clock marking each second, as if time itself had slowed. Daniel's words still echoed in her mind. You're not just my mom, you're a woman too. The weight of it pressed on her chest, leaving her unsure how to breathe. Daniel didn't look away. His dark eyes were steady, full of something Emma couldn't quite name. He wasn't angry, he wasn't joking, he was serious. And his seriousness made her heart tremble. Daniel, she said softly, trying to steady her voice, you're making this sound bigger than it is. I just went to a party. But he shook his head firmly. No, Mom, it is bigger. Do you know what I've realized tonight while sitting here waiting for you? I don't say the things that matter. I don't tell you enough how much you mean to me. You've always been the strong one, the one who holds everything together, and sometimes I forget you need to be seen, too. Emma felt her hands twist together in her lap. His words touched something deep inside her, a place she rarely let anyone see. For years she had poured herself into her role, making sure the bills were paid, the house was cared for, that Daniel had everything he needed to become the man he was today. And in giving everything, she had learned to expect little for herself. But now here he was, her son, speaking truth she had buried. She forced a small smile. You're grown now, Daniel. You shouldn't worry about me. I'm fine. Daniel leaned forward, his voice low but steady. No, you're not. You've learned how to pretend, but I can see it. You've been lonely, haven't you? The question cut straight through her, and she felt her throat tighten. She wanted to deny it, to brush it off with a laugh. Oh, she couldn't. His eyes saw too much. She dropped her gaze to the floor, her voice breaking. Sometimes yes, but that's not your burden to carry. Daniel's hands clenched together, his shoulders tense. But it is my burden, Mom. I can't stand the thought of you giving so much love and not having someone to give it back to you. Tonight made me realize you deserve to feel alive, to feel cherished, to feel like a woman who still has so much to give. Emma's breath caught. His words carried a tenderness she wasn't prepared for. It wasn't a casual observation, it was a confession, raw and unguarded. She raised her eyes to him, searching his face. Why are you telling me this? Why now? His answer came quickly, without hesitation. Because if I don't, I'll regret it. I've seen you put yourself second for so long. You always make sacrifices. You always hide your own feelings to keep me safe, to keep this family strong. But who does that for you? Who makes sure you don't feel invisible? The silence that followed was thick, almost unbearable. Emma's pulse hammered in her ears. She wanted to speak, but no words came. Daniel took a slow breath. Tonight, when you walked out the door, you looked radiant. It scared me because I realized I almost forgot that you're more than the person who raised me. You're a person with a heart that deserves more than just duty and responsibility. I don't ever want you to forget that. Emma's eyes burned with tears. His words felt like both a gift and a wound. Beautiful because they reminded her of her worth. Painful because they came from someone she wasn't prepared to hear them from. She reached for the edge of the couch, grounding herself. Daniel, you're saying things that are too much. You don't understand the weight of what you're telling me. But he didn't back down. I understand more than you think. I know I'm young and maybe my words sound strange coming from me, but they're the truth. You're not just my mom. You're a woman who deserves love. You deserve someone who sees you the way I do. The room seemed to shrink around her, his honesty pressed against her like a tide, and she felt herself drowning in the intensity of it. She wanted to stop him, but another part of her wanted to hear more, wanted to believe that someone could see her in this way, even if it was her son. Her voice came out in a whisper. You don't know how dangerous your words are. They make me feel things I don't want to feel. Daniel looked down, its expression filled with regret, but his voice was still steady. I didn't mean to scare you. I can't keep quiet anymore. You're the most important person in my life, and I can't watch you carry everything alone. I can't watch you pretend you don't need more. Emma pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her heart pound beneath her palm. His words had shaken the walls she had built around herself, walls she thought would keep her safe. But now those walls were cracking, and the emotions behind them were flooding out. She tried to compose herself. Daniel, I've spent years teaching you how to be strong, how to grow, how to become your own man. I never imagined you'd turn those lessons back on me like this. His lips curved into the faintest smile, though his eyes stayed serious. Maybe that's what you wanted deep down, for me to see you, to remind you of the things you try so hard to hide. Emma shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. I don't know what to say. You've left me speechless. Daniel leaned back, his voice softer now. Then don't say anything. Just let my words stay with you. Even if you never repeat them, I need you to know how much you matter. Not just as my mom, as you. Emma stared at him, her emotions a storm she couldn't calm. His confession had opened something she had long buried. The truth that she was more than the roles she played, more than the responsibilities she carried. She was still alive, still longing, still human, but that truth was terrifying too because it came from Daniel, the one person she never thought would say such things. She took a trembling breath, whispering, Daniel, your words have touched me more than you'll ever know, but they've also left me afraid. The clock ticked again, louder this time, as though marking the change in the air. Emma knew that nothing would ever be quite the same again. Emma sat on the edge of the couch, her body tense, her hands twisted together as though holding herself in place. Daniel's words had left her shaken, but his eyes, so steady, so full of meaning, kept her from looking away. The silence in the room was heavy, pressing down on both of them. Filled with emotions she couldn't name, she drew in a slow breath. Daniel, you've grown. I see that you're not a boy anymore, but you must understand these words you're speaking. They cut deeper than you realize. Daniel leaned closer, his elbows resting on his knees, his voice low and deliberate. I know exactly what I'm saying. I've thought about it for a long time. You give so much and no one gives back to you. It isn't fair. You deserve happiness too. Emma felt her throat tighten. His words weren't wrong. She had given and given year after year until parts of her felt hollow. But hearing him say it out loud was different. It was raw, it was honest, and it touched a part of her she had hidden away for too long. Her voice trembled. You can't carry my loneliness for me. Daniel, that's not your place. His gaze softened, but he didn't back down. I'm not trying to carry it. I'm trying to tell you that I see it, that I see you. You're more than just a caretaker. You're more than just my mom. You're a woman who deserves to be loved. Emma's chest ucked. For so long she had trained herself to be strong, to bury her own desires beneath her responsibilities. But now his words pulled everything to the surface, and it scared her. Scared her because she wanted to hear them, wanted to believe them, even though she knew she shouldn't. She shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. Do you realize what you're doing to me right now? You're breaking down walls I've built for years. You're saying things I can't ignore, even if I want to. Daniel lowered his eyes, guilt flickering across his face. I don't want to hurt you, Mom. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I can't stand watching you hide behind strength. You deserve more. Emma moved to sit beside him. The closeness made her heart race, but she couldn't stop herself. She reached for his hand, hesitated, then let her fingers brush against his. The warmth was immediate, unsettling, but grounding at the same time. Daniel, she whispered, you don't know what you're asking of me. I don't even know what I feel right now. I only know that your words are pulling me apart. He looked at their hands, then back at her. I'm not asking you for anything. I just needed you to know. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. You've lived too long pretending you don't need to be seen, and I can't let that continue. Emma's tears slipped down her cheeks, hot and relentless. Do you know what it feels like to hear this? To hear my own son tell me the things I've longed to hear all my life. Daniel's eyes darkened with emotion. Then maybe that's what you needed all along. Someone to remind you that you're still alive, still beautiful, still worthy of love. Emma let out a shaky laugh through her tears. You don't realize how dangerous those words are. They make me want to believe things I shouldn't. They make me feel things I thought were long gone." Daniel leaned back slightly, but his gaze never left her. "Then let yourself feel them for once. Don't hide. Don't pretend. Just let yourself be." The silence between them grew thicker, filled with a storm of unspoken truths. Emma felt her heart beating wildly, her breath uneven, her mind racing. She knew this moment was changing everything. She knew she should end it, should walk away, but she couldn't. She squeezed his hand lightly, then let go. The loss of warmth felt immediate, almost painful. She pulled back, trying to regain control of herself. "Daniel, I can't do this. I can't let myself go where your words want to take me. You're my son. That fact will never change." He nodded slowly, though his eyes betrayed the storm within him. "I know, and I don't want to cross lines we can't return from, but I also don't want you to spend the rest of your life hiding from what you deserve. If my words are the only way to remind you of that, then I'll accept it." Emma covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed. His honesty was both a comfort and a curse. She had never expected her own son to be the one to remind her of her worth, to speak the words she had longed to hear, but never thought she would. After a long silence, she lowered her hands and looked at him again. "You've made me realize something, Daniel. Maybe I have been hiding. Maybe I've convinced myself that being strong was enough. But tonight you've reminded me that I'm still human, that I still need love, even if I don't know where to find it." Daniel's lips curved into a faint, sad smile. "That's all I wanted, Mom. For you to remember that. For you to stop burying your heart." Emma exhaled, trembling. She wanted to hug him, to hold him the way she had when he was small, but she knew this moment wasn't the same. This was different, this was heavier, this was a storm neither of them had asked for, but both of them were standing in the middle of it now. She stood slowly, her legs unsteady. "I need space. I need to think. Your words, they've shaken me in ways I can't explain." Daniel nodded, his jaw tight. "I understand." Emma walked a few steps away, her back to him. The weight of the evening pressed down on her shoulders, but inside something had shifted. She felt both broken and alive, afraid and hopeful. For years, she had silenced the quiet ache in her heart, convincing herself that life was fine as it was. But now, with Daniel's words echoing inside her, she couldn't ignore it anymore. The storm was real, it was inside her, changing her, and there was no way to go back to who she had been before. Tonight, Emma rose from the couch slowly, her legs weak, her breath uneven. The air in the living room felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the storm of emotions that had just passed between her and Daniel. She walked a few steps toward the hallway, but then stopped, her back still turned to him. She couldn't move further, not yet. Her heart was beating too fast, and her mind was racing with words she didn't want to admit had pierced her so deeply. Behind her, Daniel sat in silence. He didn't press her, didn't call out, but she could feel the weight of his gaze on her back. That gaze carried everything he had, said every confession, every truth, and Emma knew nothing between them would ever be the same again. She turned slightly, her voice low, but trembling. "Daniel, you've changed me tonight. I don't know if you meant to, but you did. I don't feel like the same person who left for that party a few hours ago." Daniel's face was unreadable. His hands clasped tightly together, as though he were trying to hold back emotions, threatening to break free. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted you to know how much you matter." Emma shook her head softly. "You didn't hurt me. You scared me. And maybe that's worse because now I can't unhear your words. They'll stay with me." The quiet stretched between them, and Emma felt the need to escape before the silence swallowed her whole. She forced herself to move toward the hallway again, this time making it to the door of her bedroom. Her hand rested on the knob, but her heart wouldn't let her turn it. Instead, she leaned against the doorframe, her shoulders sagging under the weight of everything she carried inside. She whispered almost to herself, "I've spent years telling myself I was fine, that being a mother, being strong, being dependable was enough. But tonight you reminded me I'm still human. And that truth is the most terrifying thing of all." Daniel stood slowly, his chair scraping softly against the floor. He didn't walk closer, but his voice carried across the distance, low and steady. "You don't have to be terrified. You just have to let yourself feel again. That's all I wanted for you." Emma closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. His voice had a way of piercing through every defense she had built. She had thought she was untouchable, that she could bury her own needs so deeply they would never surface again. But he had found them. He had pulled them out into the light. She turned her head just enough to see him from the corner of her eye. "Do you know what you've done, Daniel? You've given me back a part of myself I thought I had lost forever, but it frightens me because I don't know what to do with it now." He lowered his gaze, its expression filled with something close to sorrow. "Then don't do anything yet. Just keep it. Let it stay with you. Maybe someday you'll know what to do with it. For now, just remember that you're not invisible. Not to me, not ever." Emma's chest ached at his words. She wanted to step forward to hug him, to thank him for seeing her so clearly, but she didn't trust herself. She was afraid of crossing a line she couldn't return from, afraid of letting emotions take her somewhere she didn't intend to go. She tightened her grip on the door frame. "I need time, Daniel. I need space to understand what I'm feeling tonight. You've shaken the foundation of who I thought I was. That's not something I can process in one night." Daniel nodded, his expression serious, almost solemn. "I understand. I won't push you. I just needed you to know the truth." Emma opened the door and stepped inside her room, closing it gently behind her. She leaned against the door, her hands pressed flat against the wood, her body trembling. The house was silent again, but inside her mind. The storm was louder than ever. She slid down to the floor, her back against the door, and pulled her knees to her chest. Her tears came freely now, not out of sadness, but out of the overwhelming mixture of emotions swirling inside her: fear, longing, gratitude, confusion. She had spent years keeping herself together, convincing herself she was whole, when in truth she had been quietly breaking. Tonight Daniel's words had shattered the illusion, and for the first time in a long time she felt raw and exposed. But she also felt alive. The birthday party had given her a glimpse of something she had nearly forgotten: the joy of being seen, the thrill of being admired, the comfort of laughter. Yet none of that compared to the words her son had spoken. His confession had been unexpected, unsettling, but it had touched a place in her heart that no one else had reached in years. She sat there for a long time, the quiet wrapping around her like a blanket. Slowly she wiped her tears, straightened her shoulders, and whispered to herself, "I am more than I thought I was. I'm still here. I'm still me." On the other side of the door, Daniel hadn't moved. He sat back down on the couch, his head resting in his hands, his mind racing with everything he had revealed. He knew he had crossed a line, but he also knew he had spoken the truth. And sometimes the truth was the only thing worth saying. Emma finally rose from the floor and walked to the window. The night sky stretched endlessly, the stars glowing softly, distant but alive. She pressed her hand against the glass and breathed deeply. Her life was no longer the same. Something inside her had been stirred, something she couldn't put back to sleep. Her son's words had shaken her. Yes, but they had also awakened her. And as she stood there, gazing out into the quiet night, Emma understood that this was not an ending. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where she could no longer hide from herself, one where she would have to face the truth of her heart. She didn't know where it would lead. She didn't know how she would carry it. But she knew this: she could no longer pretend to be invisible. She could no longer silence the longing that had always been there. Emma closed her eyes and whispered into the stillness, "I deserve to be seen." And for the first time in years, she truly believed it.